The starlit void stretched endlessly before me, punctuated only by the faint glimmer of distant nebulae. Our fleet had been hunting her for weeks, a rogue warlord whose name was whispered in fear across 3 sectors. She was the Scythe of Viridian, and to me, she was the embodiment of everything we were trained to destroy. Yet, when I finally boarded her crippled ship, I didn't find a monster. I found a human being, alone, cornered, and bleeding. I should have hesitated. Protocol dictated it. But something in her gaze stopped me, a defiance that resonated with a fragment of myself I hadn't realized I'd lost. Her armor was shattered, sparking along the seams, smoke curling from the ruptured plating. The weapon systems she had once used to obliterate entire battalions were dead, replaced by an almost vulnerable human form beneath. Her eyes, amber and piercing, flicked toward me, a mixture of suspicion and calculated risk. "I expected a squad," she rasped, voice sharp even through the respirator. "Why are you alone?" "I'm not here to fight," I said, stepping carefully across the mangled deck. "I'm here to help." Her laugh was bitter, a short, sharp sound that echoed off the scorched walls. "Help me? You don't even know me." "I know enough," I said, scanning her armor. "You're patched together like 1,000 soldiers you've defeated, and even your body is paying the price." She regarded me like I'd grown another head. And why would a human care about an enemy alien's life? Her words were sharp, but beneath them was fatigue, exhaustion that betrayed her hardened facade. I knelt beside her, careful not to touch her without permission. Because in the end, you're still a soldier who deserves a chance. And because I've repaired armor before, yours is more than plating. It's the protection for something worth saving. Her gaze softened, just slightly, enough to make me wonder if I'd misjudged her entirely. The ship's interior was a graveyard of shattered panels and scorched metal. Systems flickered intermittently, life support barely functional. She sat slumped against a bulkhead, and I could see the strain etched into her features. Her armor, which had once gleamed with lethal efficiency, was cracked in multiple places, the servos squealing weakly as they struggled to maintain integrity. I opened my own pack and began scanning the damage. The repairs would not be simple. We needed power reroutes, hydraulic patching, and a way to stabilize her biomonitor systems. Normally, I would have called this an impossible mission. But as I worked, I realized she wasn't just a mission. She was proof of the complexity of life, the unpredictability of humanity. "I don't need your pity," she said, watching my hands dance over the exposed circuits. "This isn't pity," I replied. "This is respect. You survived longer than anyone expected, and now you need someone to see that, to help you continue." Her eyes darted away, and I caught a flicker of something like shame, or maybe gratitude. Hours passed, and I worked methodically, patching circuits, reprogramming servos, recalibrating her life support. She said little, only occasionally issuing terse instructions or critiques of my technique. I could feel her observing me, weighing my every action. By the time the main power conduit hummed back to life, she was watching me with a curious intensity, as if she couldn't decide whether to strike me down or admit a reluctant trust. "I should kill you," she muttered finally, voice low. "For what you've done. For what you might still do." "And I would expect nothing less," I replied. "But I won't fight someone who's already fighting herself." She laughed again, this one quieter, less bitter. "You're insane." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I just see more than an enemy. I see a person who's worth more than the sum of her battles." For the first time, she allowed herself to lean back, letting me finish the last repairs. The servos hissed and clicked into alignment. The armor's plating glimmered faintly, restored yet bearing the marks of survival, a testament, I thought, to her resilience. When she finally rose, her movements were hesitant but steadier than before. She tested the armor, flexing and twisting, noting its response. And then, for the first time, she looked at me without suspicion, without calculation, just recognition. "You did this," she said simply. "I did," I replied. "But it's still yours. You carry it. You decide what it means." The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken truths. I could see the war within her, the desire for vengeance, the weight of the lives she had taken, the isolation she'd endured. And yet, beneath it all, there was the flicker of something fragile and human. "You could leave," she said finally. "You don't have to stay. You could just report this and leave me to die. And miss the chance to see you fight on your own terms?" I asked. "No. I want to see what you do next." Her lips twitched in something close to a smile, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You're crazy." "I'm human," I said, and for some reason, that seemed to explain it. Days passed, and we navigated the wreckage of her ship together. Repairs were ongoing, but the real challenge lay in navigating trust. She tested me at every turn, launching verbal attacks and riddles meant to gauge my intent. And each time, I answered with patience, sometimes deflection, sometimes honesty. Slowly, the walls she had built around herself began to crumble, not entirely, but enough that I could see the person beneath the armor. She spoke little of her past, but fragments slipped out. A homeworld lost, a betrayal by her own people, a drive to survive that had hardened into ruthless efficiency. And in return, I shared stories of humanity's struggles, the resilience that had kept our species alive across centuries of war. It was strange, this connection between enemies. But in the quiet moments, as we repaired circuits or plotted courses around debris fields, it became clear. The enemy I had hunted was now the ally I needed. And perhaps, unknowingly, I had become the same for her. Our first real test came when an enemy drone squadron detected her ship drifting near a neutral sector. They moved in with precision, weapons locked and ready. I could see her tense, the old instinct to fight rising. But I held up my hand. "Not yet," I said. "Let me do the talking." She raised an eyebrow, skeptical, but trusted me. I interfaced with the ship's sensors, rerouting power to shields and cloaking modules, using every trick I knew. When the drones scanned our position, they found only an empty wreck floating in the void. Her eyes met mine. "You saved my life again," she said, voice soft. "And I would do it 100 more times," I replied. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean closer, as if acknowledging not only survival but trust. Weeks turned into months. Repairs continued, and our alliance solidified. She fought beside me in skirmishes, no longer an enemy, but a comrade. And through it all, I watched as the armor I had repaired became more than just protection. It became a symbol of a new bond forged in the void, a reminder that even in war, humanity could shine. Then, one night, as we floated near a distant gas giant, she finally spoke the words that had lingered unspoken between us. "Why did you help me?" I paused, looking out at the swirling clouds of the planet below. "Because you deserved it. Because even the strongest soldiers need someone to see them, not just as a weapon, but as a person." She was silent for a long time, the hum of the ship filling the void. And then she said, almost quietly, "I never thought I'd meet someone like you, someone who could see me through the armor." "I see more than the armor," I said. "I see you." Her lips curved in a genuine smile, and for the first time, the name scythe of Viridian didn't feel like a weapon. It felt like a survivor, a person reborn through trust and resilience. The galaxy would still see her as a warrior, and the history of our conflicts would remain. But in that moment, amidst the stars and the quiet hum of her repaired ship, she was no longer my enemy. She was someone I had chosen to believe in. And in choosing her, I realized something fundamental about humanity. Even in the vast emptiness of space, even amidst wars and betrayals, the capacity to repair, not just machines, but souls, was the greatest power of all. As we set course for the unknown, side by side, I knew one thing. Enemies could change. Armor could be repaired. And sometimes, humanity's finest victories were not measured in battles won, but in lives saved, trust earned, and hearts changed. The void outside stretched endlessly, but for the first time, it felt like a place of possibility rather than threat. The Scythe of Viridian, no longer merely a name of fear, stood beside me on the bridge of her ship, her armor gleaming under the soft lights we had repaired together. "Do you ever regret helping me?" she asked quietly, eyes scanning the stars. I shook my head.
No.
I don't regret saving anyone who has a chance to choose differently. She studied me for a long moment, then allowed a small, almost shy smile. I didn't think anyone could see past what I've done. People see what they want to see, I said. But I see what you are now, someone who survived everything and is still choosing to fight for more than just revenge. For the first time, I noticed the subtle changes in her mannerisms, how her shoulders, once tense like a drawn bow, were now relaxed. Her movements carried a new precision, not just honed for war, but for survival and strategy tempered by thoughtfulness. We drifted through the remnants of a battlefield we hadn't yet explored, scavenging what was left of her enemies' derelict vessels. She moved with confidence now, her armor fully repaired, the servos whirring in harmony. I realized then that the armor was no longer just protection. It had become a symbol of her evolution, a visible reminder that even the most hardened warriors could be changed, rebuilt, and redeemed. A sudden alarm cut through the quiet, a remnant automated defense system triggered by our presence. She looked at me, the old war-hardened instinct flaring briefly. But instead of reaching for weapons first, she paused, then nodded at me. "You lead," she said. Together, we dismantled the trap with efficiency, our trust in each other seamless. She moved with deadly precision, but no longer with the reckless fury of an enemy. Her actions were calculated, tempered by the cooperation that had grown between us. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just preserving life. I was shaping it, alongside someone who had once sought only destruction. Later, when the threat was neutralized, she leaned against the rail of the ship, staring out at the distant nebulae. I joined her, standing quietly beside her, letting the silence stretch comfortably between us. "I never imagined I'd survive this long," she admitted softly. "And now, I don't know what to do with this second chance." I placed a hand on her shoulder, a gesture of solidarity. "You choose. You always had the power to choose. And now you know you're not alone in making those choices." Her gaze lingered on mine, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability, not weakness, but the honesty of someone who had lived a lifetime on the edge and finally allowed herself to breathe. The stars shimmered around us, a galaxy full of potential waiting to be explored. And for the first time, we weren't running from enemies or from history. We were moving forward, together, ready to face whatever came next, not as predator and prey, not as hunter and hunted, but as allies forged through fire, trust, and the simple humanity of repairing what was broken. As we set a new course into uncharted space, she finally spoke words that carried the weight of everything we had survived together. Thank you for seeing me. And thank you, I replied, for letting me. For the scythe of Viridian, the enemy had been left behind, replaced by someone more than a warrior, someone human, capable of change, capable of hope. And for me, the victory was not in conquest or in battle. It was in the choice to save, to trust, and to see the humanity even in someone the galaxy had labeled as a threat. The hum of the ship's engines was steady now, a soft heartbeat in the endless dark. Together, we moved forward, side by side, into a future that neither of us could have imagined, but both of us were ready to face. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.